So we have Karan from GitHub, and we're doing some casual tech discussions with Karan. And to start with, if you can just give a brief introduction about what you do at GitHub or how what your role has been.
Sure. Hi everyone. Hi. I'm Karan, and I lead international developer relations at GitHub. I'm a senior manager. So I manage the developer ecosystem and the support that GitHub provides for all of these ecosystems across India and LATAM, and soon some of the other regions as well. So my team and I work very closely with a lot of the developers and the open source ecosystem stakeholders, including maintainers, contributors, academia, government, enterprises, startups, etc. And our whole main purpose is to really help all of the developers, in their open source journey and be better at software development with and on GitHub.
Okay. So you're still hands-on with coding, or?
Very much, daily. So in fact, just before I came over here, I finished a PR review and then came over here. I feel it's very, very important for any DevRel person especially to be still in touch with their engineering and development skills, because the relations is the second part. The first part is developer. So you yourself, have to be, exactly, you cannot build a relation. So you need to be a developer first, and be up to speed with whatever else is happening out over there, and that's what even I do. And it so happens that Ruby is one of my favorite languages.
Okay.
As an anecdote, right? I have I think recently or sometime put it up on my GitHub profile readme that Ruby is my first love.
Okay.
There were questions from my family.
And do you have second and third love as well?
Second would be Python.
Okay.
That used to be my first, but I think right now I switched it to Ruby because I find it really nice. So yeah, that's.
Okay, so I'll put a very dramatic question now.
Yeah.
How safe is your job? Or just coming with what is there in the news these days, that
right.
AI, this big buzzword, so LLM models, ChatGPT, and everything.
Yeah.
That will eat up our jobs, right? We'll be out of jobs, or what are your views, or how do you take that at GitHub, right? Because you are managing a lot of code, right? So how do you see that?
Well, interestingly, whenever there has been a new game-changing technology, a whole lot of people in the world thought that, okay, this technology is going to be an end of jobs for this group of people. Anything, it could be that, it could be, the start of the internet itself. It could be, the introduction of, printers. It could be the introduction of CDs and all of that, etc. Right from before. Everyone thought, okay, this new technology.
But that did happen, right? Because once there's a digital game and CDs are no longer there.
Yes, so it's evolution.
It's evolution, right? So,
it's evolution, of course. But it's not that, it kind of took away someone's jobs. It's just that some of those had to be repurposed into something else.
The jobs got transitioned.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
It's not that jobs are going away. Even
right.
new jobs will come up. It's I see more like you have to, upskill yourself in a way that you don't get obsolete. Right? That's a whole
you would have to find new ways to work
right.
with the technology and help move forward. I think it's a similar case with AI as well. For example, when we see something like what we have at GitHub Copilot, we always make it clear and call it as a pair programmer.
Right.
It's not a programmer. All right. You can pair with it to help make it a lot more better, and then make your code better, help increase your productivity, etc. But you are the programmer. That is the Copilot. All right. So it's not going to fly the plane for you.
Right.
You fly the plane, it will help you and assist you. I think it's a similar case with with a whole lot of the AI technologies, where it will help you make your work easier, be a lot more productive, rather than really take away anyone's jobs. If anything, an engineer would be working on more bigger problems and
right.
trying to address larger stuff rather than something that's trivial that can be easily done by AI.
I think trivial is a big word here,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're doing something trivial, you're doing the same thing over and over again. Right?
Exactly.
Then, whatever you do, it will go away, right? But someone else can easily replace you as well, right? I think you need to make your mind work. I think that's the whole thing being the industry.
Absolutely. And at the start of this era, right, even before AI was there, I came across in one of the books how a whole lot of the engineers or even people who are working these days are knowledge workers.
Right.
You apply your knowledge to do the work rather than just some manual work, right? So, if anything, I think that is what will really increase, where you work on tackling more and bigger problems rather than small trivial ones.
Right. Okay. So talking about Copilot, right? So let's say before Copilot, you have been dev for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? What are your views on pair programming?
Well,
not with a computer,
Yeah.
but two people sitting together and solving a problem or doing something.
Right. I think it's very useful when it comes to solving the problem.
Right.
Now there have been, of course, viewpoints saying that it might probably not be as productive and all of those things. At the end of the day, if you look at it, having another pair of eyes, even if they are pairing with you in solving the problem, is
Right.
always very useful.
Right.
For example, at GitHub itself, we have this practice where any pull request that is shipping,
Right.
either for GitHub platform or any other internal tool, we make it sure that there is another pair of eyes looking at it.
Okay.
Not because it's not good or so,
Right.
but most often we'll be able to kind of figure out better approaches, better ways to solve that, or some trivial logic error, etc.
Right.
So it always helps at the end of the day make your product a lot more better, your code a lot more better.
Right. Okay. So, and then talking about GitHub, right? One thing which comes to my mind when I talk about GitHub is the scale, because
Yeah.
the amount of code you guys are handling it's huge.
Yeah.
Right. So, can we talk a little about what kind of infra is used, or how are you managing these
Right.
kind of things, and maybe if you want to talk about some challenges which you faced, while managing, right? Things go down or something happens, right? So, how is your
Right. Multiple things. So, for example, we are always continuously iterating. Okay. A key aspect that we focus on is typically in the DevOps lifecycle, right? You have multiple DORA metrics
Right.
that people really measure. So we also measure some of those DORA metrics to make sure that we are shipping code fast. So from PR to production,
Right.
we try to reduce that time as much as possible. So we are kind of iterating a lot. And our developer experience team within GitHub really focuses on empowering all of the developers with whatever is needed.
Right.
So as an example, we have something called as a paved path.
Okay.
Now, this is a term that you might have heard in some of the organizations. It's called as, I think, Netflix calls it as a paved way, and some of the other organizations called it as golden path or something else, and we call it as a paved path. The concept is very simple, saying that if you want to enable developers to quickly build their services, deploy, and then get up and running,
Right.
you enable them with all of the tools necessary to get up and running really fast at
Right.
scale.
Right.
I'll give you an example. A lot of our services that we use, we prefer not to have it on VMs, but rather manage it as containerized services with Kubernetes as our base layer.
Right.
So we are able to really tackle capacity and scale in a central manner rather than let teams worry about, okay, what am I supposed to do about managing this VM? How should I plan for capacity, etc.
Right.
Right now, if any developer wants to ship a microservice or is maintaining it, right, they can ship it easily. And we are able to manage all of the capacity at a central level for our entire clusters.
Okay.
Which are there in a single region and multiple sites, etc.
Right.
So one of the really beautiful things is, I think, at GitHub we have a very good developer experience.
Okay.
Right from just bootstrapping the service to deploying it can be done in a matter of few minutes if you have everything ready.
Okay.
That makes a huge difference for iterating.
Right.
And making sure that things are, very much available, etc. We have very good monitoring also in place, which is very, very important for scale.
Right.
Really looking at how the platform is working, spotting anything very much early on.
Right.
And also we have struck a balance between being stringent about all of our CI jobs and tests, and at the same time making sure that you're not blocking anything.
Right.
It's a very fine balance. Because GitHub is a monolith, and the same monolith is used to deploy for GitHub.com as well as GitHub Enterprise, which is another product. Right. So there are some specific challenges that we saw, and we were able to fix that, and strike this balance, being ensuring quality as well at the same time not blocking it.
Right.
So we have a blog post about it on github.blog as well, of how we tackle some of this measures around looking at it.
Right. So a couple of things you touched upon here was, you said GitHub is a monolith.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're talking about microservices, how someone can deploy microservices, right? So, this has always been a debate on what is
monolith versus
microservices, right? So, I've seen people build microservices just for the sake of doing microservices, right? So, what is your take on, can we say is monolith bad, right? And is microservices good? Or what should be the approach? When we can talk about how you use GitHub, but what should be the approach? How should we think? Does it need monolith? Or if you have a monolith, when is the time to start breaking it down into microservices? Or it could be a macro service as well, actually, right? Because it's not always that you have to divide it into very smaller chunks. You can also say, okay, this is a big chunk. Monolith is in 4 work. Can I get one out? But how should someone think about that?
So, a key thing that I would advise is that think about what are the different velocities in your monolith.
Right.
Now, so if you have a monolith and all of it is running at the same pace, when I say running in terms of requests, processing time, and everything else, right? If it's running at the same pace, why do you want to break it into microservices? What advantage will you get?
Right.
The key aspect is that if you, as an example, if you just look at the GitHub.com platform, multiple of the parts of the GitHub platform run at a different pace.
Right.
For example, if you look at it, GitHub Actions, runs out at a very different pace because
very good product.
Thank you. And a whole lot of people are running jobs, building CIs, etc.
Yeah.
And the pace of that might not be the same as the pace of, say, releases, the releases feature or the pull requests, etc. Right. So there are multiple different velocities and usage in terms of the load and the scale that is being there. So I think that is a good way to really look at, is it good to break this away into a separate microservice, or a service and more microservices, etc., that can be scaled independently, that can be managed independently.
Right.
We do that in a very similar way at GitHub, where the GitHub.com, the main platform, is a Rails monolith, and multiple parts and multiple features, etc., have some of their own microservices in their own languages and all of those things. So that's kind of the approach that we take, and my advice is to kind of again really look at what is the different usage and requests and scale and load for each part.
Right, because see, when you have microservices, you pay the price of communications and all these kind of things as well.
Latency, communication, management, overblowing of services.
Yeah, I think that's also a big pain, right? If you have a lot of services, then you have to make a service to manage all these services.
Yes,
right? It becomes very difficult, right? Okay,
absolutely.
So sitting in RubyConf, right? And there are new languages which are coming up every day, right? Rust is there, we have Golang, which are very good. So And obviously, nothing wrong about your first love, but how do you see Ruby evolving? Right? Maybe 5 years down the line, is it the end of Ruby? Like we have been hearing this from a long time, but today at least it's still working. How do you see it in the future?
Well, I think we've been hearing that a whole lot of languages are going to end for a very long while. They're still there. I'll give you an example. If of course, JavaScript is really hot right now.
Right.
Everyone knows that. One day you wake up in the morning, there's a new JavaScript framework.
Right.
Unlike a whole lot of other languages, it's of course very hot right now. But I think one thing which many developers and engineers fail to understand is it's not just about the syntax, but each programming language has its own strengths and weaknesses. Right. For example, some of the programming languages become very famous for it. Like, for example, if you were to take a look at Golang, everyone knows that, the concurrency in the routines with Golang is very, very efficient and good. Excellent for system engineering and things like that, right? And similarly, everyone knows JavaScript is really good for async programming, etc. Right. So, people who understand the strengths and weaknesses of each programming language, will continue to start matching the strengths and weaknesses of that language with their own business need. Right. I think that's very important, because what's needed is that you don't just choose a language. I mean, if you're small, if you're just building out a product,
it doesn't really matter.
Then it doesn't really matter. You can choose what you're comfortable with to get it off the.
Shipping faster is more.
Exactly. So I think as long as people recognize the strengths and weaknesses of Ruby or any other language, I think it will still be around. A whole lot of products around the world are still using it. It's very well supported by the community. In fact, we at GitHub, we kind of actively contribute upstream to Rails as well, and make sure that whatever we are learning by operating github.com and with Rails, etc. We upstream it as well, and we kind of use always the latest release as well for github.com that's running. So it's some amount of similar dedication needed by other organizations also to make sure that you give back. Then only everything is going to grow. Otherwise, if you just say that, okay, I'm going to use it, alright, and something broke, I'm just going to go away. You're the one who will pay the price in migrating. So instead, you might
pain. Migrating is not easy.
It's not.
So
it's not. So you'd have to just invest a little bit time in making sure that you at least contribute upstream and make something better, so that it benefits you as well as the larger community, and you don't have to make another big investment in trying to migrate everything away.
Sure. So that's all we have. So thanks a lot for your time, and we hope the love for your Ruby continues.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you.